Hi, my name is Pastor Hal York, and welcome to Truth in the Trenches. Today we're going to be Proverbs chapter 9, verse 7. He who corrects a scoffer gets dishonor for himself, and he who reproves a wicked man gets insults for himself. Scoffers. We've met them before in Proverbs. We're going to meet them again. Scoffers are proud, selfish, arrogant. Psalm 1 talks about the seat of the scoffer, the one settled in his position. He's unmovable, defiant, arrogant. And because of this, scoffers are not teachable. Scoffers do not respond well to those seeking to correct them. Elsewhere they're called mockers, and those who seek to correct them become the targets of their mocking, and relentlessly so. Scoffers and mockers have a very high regard for themselves and very low regard for everybody else. And I think what our verse is telling us is that any confrontation or correction is generally not going to go well or end well with such a person. Scoffers have moved from being somewhat pliable and teachable or humble to a settled state of arrogance and defiance. They're wicked people. They're alluded to in the next verse as well. But notice the contrasts in how the wise accept reproof and the scoffer. Do not reprove a scoffer or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man and he will love you. So it kind of prompts the question, should scoffers and mockers be confronted or be corrected? They should be punished for their wrongdoing, obviously for their wicked deeds. But there may come a point where confrontation is about all that can take place. They need to be confronted. Correction is just casting pearls before swine. They will not listen to correction. And if you do seek to correct them, you will become the target of their hatred and bitter hearts. Sometimes correction for this kind of person just does no good. Sometimes they just need to be left alone. They've been warned repeatedly, and the only way they're going to learn is suffering the consequences of their actions, and even then they seldom learn. One commentary made this observation, and I think it's a wise one, and hope it helps someone maybe dealing with a situation like this, and I think it's what the verse is driving home for us. The advice to not correct a mocker lest he hate you or bring dishonor to you means that one should be prepared to avoid the negative emotions of a rejected relationship. This verse tells us, when all this comes down around your ears, don't take it personally. Don't allow their venomous lips to poison your hearts. When you correct or confront a scoffer and they blow up and insult you, which they will, if they seek to dishonor you, consider the source. Yes, they need to be confronted, but you will not change such people. The verse today seems to be saying it's effort to correct them that the mockers most hate. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be their boss, their spouse, their friend, or a colleague. Anyone who would seek to correct them will bear their fury, insults, and wrath. The mocker is wise in his own eyes, and Proverbs says there's more hope for a fool than this kind of person. So correction bears little fruit in this person's life. They learn one way, and it's the hard way. And sometimes they just never learn, period. Correction is wasted on such a person. And we need wisdom to know how to handle such people. And I think we have an example of a story in Abigail and Nabal in the Old Testament. Abigail was a godly woman, and she was married to such a person called Nabal. But as we watch Abigail's story unfold in this one particular instance, I think we see some valuable insight into her actions when he made a very arrogant, foolish decision that almost cost him and everyone around him their lives. She didn't confront him. She didn't seek to correct him or reprove him because she knew where that would end up. She circumvented him. She showed wisdom in her tactics and her timing, and she sought to alleviate the consequences of his foolish decisions. If you want to read that story, it's a fascinating story. It's in 1 Samuel 25, 18 to 38. So I think what he's telling us here in verse 7 is turn our attention to verses 8 and 9. Turn your attention to the wise. They will love you for your correction, and they will grow in wisdom. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase his learning. If you've been wounded by such a person, in verse 7, don't allow such people to destroy you or haunt you. Pray for them. Ask God for wisdom. If the need for confrontation should arise, don't go alone. They may need to be warned about consequences, but they will not accept your correction. So there's a lot to think about in this little verse. And I pray that this would help guide us and guard us in the trenches of life as we seek to live our lives for the glory of God and the good of others. May God bless.